Just give it a minute here for people to fill in. Also for Tasha to stand up a cube cluster.
Yeah, the VM's taking forever to boot.
Fletcher, I'm gonna have nightmares from that Trello card. Also, I think you're muted.
There, I was double muted. Yeah, am I pretty yet?
I'm gonna go with no on that one.
Work in progress. Good. It's good. You leave me room for improvement.
Alright, we are streaming live. So this should be heading out. This should be on Twitch right now. Just double check to make sure that's true. And I'm not full of lies. Yep, cool. Alright, Fletcher, you want to go first?
Wow, yeah, that was a lot of unmuting to say, yep, I can do that. As soon as I remember how to do sharing. Seems like this reverted back from last week. I can't figure out why that would be. Let me try and find the window I want to share. Oh gosh, okay, let's do that. There we go. Is that a window? Present to everyone? Yeah?
It looks good, man.
Yay, okay. So what I'm going to show are a few updates that we kind of made in the last couple weeks to the build output. This is to accomplish a few things. One is to kind of help users reason about their builds when things work, but more importantly, when they don't. The interesting thing about a build system is, to an extent, the failures are almost more valuable in terms of learning, because that's the stuff you need to fix. Seeing stuff work in the happy path is always great, and you want to see that all the time. But when things go wrong, that's when actually having context is helpful. So what I'm going to do here is I'm on, for the moment, a development instance. We're kind of going through the steps right now to kind of get this promoted out to live. So this will be hitting everybody pretty shortly here. I've got just my little kind of node app that's using a scaffolding, and I'm just going to go and start a build for this. And then we can kind of take a look at some of the different output. Now, this will skip right beyond, I was sort of actually hoping to catch this, what it would have said before the worker startup was now it's sort of like pending your job or something like that. Chris has done some work, actually. I don't know if you're going to be showing that, but it's pretty cool. So you'll see things a little differently here. We've got now a bit more of an explicit confirmation that we're actually starting to stream this log. So it's not much different than we had before, but just a little bit more sort of positive reinforcement that what you're seeing corresponds to this build output. We did a little bit of just preliminary work, changing some names of basically some of the bookkeeping, some of the necessary tasks that we need to do on the worker before we're ready to build your plan, namely making sure any post-build integrations are looking good and fetching your secret origin key, cloning the repo down, stuff like that. So you'll see that's where we're actually starting to build your package, which is in the studio. And if I dip down to the bottom, actually, if I don't dip down to the bottom, there's a few things now that are different. So I'm on a development instance, so I actually have some extra debug output. You'll see it just doesn't look great. The nice thing about this, though, is all this debug output will typically go to the standard error stream of Studio Build. Or if we're running a command that fails, typically you'd see those errors on standard error. So previous to the changes we've made, any of the standard error reporting would, if it shows up, would likely be at the very bottom of the build output, and it's out of context from where the stuff is happening. So this is, I guess, a big difference that now when you see stuff failing or debugging, you're likely going to see it about where the original program would have output it to, which is super helpful when things start to go wrong. So I'm not expecting anything to go wrong here. I would have demoed this with the Docker exporter, but for the moment, I have I have a known issue on my dev environment where like the Docker engine is not going to fully spin up in the studio. That in itself is an interesting error message. But you'll see here, like, how do I know this log or this build has finished now? Now we're also giving, just like the start, we're also giving you kind of an explicit end to be like the job has stopped on the worker. If we go to the top here, it might even just be still sort of in a dispatch mode. At this point now, the worker's communicating sort of back with Builder to say like my job is finished. We have a phase here, which is actually publishing the package, so uploading the artifacts. So all that's happened. Now we're just in a state where Builder, the service, is trying to reconcile that, like, has this build job succeeded? And you'll see when I go back that, yep, that was the one that succeeded, and now we see build complete. So kind of finishing that loop out so that if we have a failure, like here's one that failed. This was with actually the Docker issue I was having. So this is all the output, and we're in the export Docker phase. And you'll see that, yeah, we had a failure. This is being reported on standard error. So hopefully nobody sees errors on Builder, but if they do, whether or not it's their own fault, hopefully now collectively our users and also the Habitat team that's operating this platform will also be able to make a lot more, make better sense of what's going on. So you'll see that I know like my Docker export failed, and the worker terminated the job because I see this end line. So I know like I don't have to wait anymore for any further output to know kind of what's going on. So that's what I got to show, and I'll figure out how to stop presenting. Yeah, I did it. Great. That's all I got.
Awesome. Very cool. Looks like John is up next.
Okay, I don't know why that took so long to find you on mute. Anyway, so I'm going to demo some of the work that I've done for the Builder API tests, specifically the running them locally bit. I just dropped a link in chat if you want to follow along. These are the directions that are in the README, just in the repo. So hopefully everything I should do should make sense along with those. If you feel like there are steps that are missing, please let me know. That'd be useful feedback. Now let me get to sharing the screen. Oh yeah, which one is it? This is it. Okay. So this is just entered into a studio, and I've done some pre-building just so we don't take as long to go through all the steps. But the first step for running the test is basically just test Builder API test. I'm going to run this, and right away you're going to see a bunch of failures, and I'm going to exit out, and that's because I'm not running the supervisor in the mode that actually does functional tests. There's some environment variables that we have to override. So the first thing that we're going to want to do, okay, looks like everything has shut down. And what we want instead is to run the supervisor and its dependent services with this habfunc test environment variable set. So we'll just start that up, wait a little bit until things set up. Okay, all the services look like they're up. And then we can just go back and run that same command. So everything with green check marks is successful. The things in sort of teal are currently skip tests, and I intentionally added one that was failing, just so you can see what the development cycle would look like. So I will go over here and fix that error. Now we'll just need to do a builder build. Build. So you could just run build builder, no arguments, and it would run all the it would rebuild all the builder components. In this case, I happen to know the fixes in the API component, so it'd be like just a little bit faster to do that. So desire to not make y'all wait more. I'll just run this. This should take about 20 seconds. And while we're waiting, this very same set of API tests also runs on Travis now. It leverages the builder dev environment that Elliot did so much wonderful work on. And so they should be doing as much as possible the same thing on both environments. The main difference between the two is for local development, it's set up such that you can run and rerun the tests against the same environment without having to tear down all the services, whereas Travis, is always going to be a pristine environment, so you don't have to worry about any artifacts that are left behind in the database. Now we'll just rerun the tests. The first thing the tests do when running locally is like just clear out any artifacts that the test would have created, and then gets rid of them again on completion. Now everything's passing. That is pretty much it.
Awesome. Very cool. Last up, looks like we got Chris.
Yeah, not quite totally prepared, unfortunately, but I'm gonna just show you what I can. I think that's the thing I want to share. You'll see Builder there, like the Builder UI. Yeah, yeah, cool. All right. As Fletcher was saying a bit ago, there's a behavior in the UI currently on the live site. It's been there for a while, where if you like navigate into a project and you want to look at you want to kick off a build, you click the build button, and you click into that build immediately, you'll kind of be staring at an empty box for a while. And if you keep staring at that empty box, it never changes. It just stays empty, even when the build actually runs behind it. It never updates. You have to kind of navigate out, navigate back in, or refresh or something in order to see that build output start to happen. So I just made a change to just look for log updates. That's all. So that when a job is running, if you're waiting, it'll tell you, hey, it hasn't started yet. And then when it finally does start, well, so just all I'm doing here is just polling basically every couple of seconds to look for updates, new logs, or whatever, so that when it does finally begin, they will begin to spill into this box and it will show that to you and everything will look great. My timing is way off in acceptance though, because I can't tell when these things are going to finish and start up. We only have one worker there, so I can't give you a very satisfying demo except to tell you that if we sat here long enough, it would totally work and look awesome. But so that's it. That's all I got. But hopefully this will make using the logs and Builder a little bit nicer for people.
Very cool. I think that's all we've got for this week. Unless Tasha, did you get up and running?
No, I'm gonna have to reinstall Minikube.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, maybe
We
next
could
time.
likely give everybody a bonus episode
Yeah.
today or next week, perhaps.
Can do. All right, guys. Thank you for your demos.